Hi everybody, this is Chris here from Mirror Distribution, just bringing you an update on our new range of BeroNet Voice over IP gateways. These are going to be sort of taking over as our really sort of supreme carrier class range of voice over IP gateway devices, and they've really got some fantastic benefits to them over most other voice over IP gateways out there in the market. So as you can see, it's a really decent sort of well constructed design, nice metal enclosure, no moving parts, so there's no fans or spinning drives or anything along those lines, so they're really quite robust and solid. Doesn't matter what the temperature is in rooms, etc. So what sets them apart from other gateways? First of all, they're modular. So as you can see on the table over here, I've got a couple of modules. There's a few different variants available to you, so you can go for BRIs, FXS, FXO, PRIs, and there's even a couple of GSM modules for SIM cards available that we'll have shortly. Really fantastic gateway. So that's the first thing that sets it apart, is that it is entirely modular. I'll actually open this in a couple of seconds and show you how to fit those modules and what it looks like. The next thing that sets it apart is the fact that it's not just driven or configured by a web interface, a standard web GUI, but it's also got a cloud option. Now that's a free functionality or free feature that BeroNet does offer. Now what that means is this device will actually dial up to your particular cloud account. You'll be able to sign in at any particular time on the BeroNet website, and you'll be able to see, first of all, the status of all of your gateways that you've got deployed out in the field, and of course you'll be able to configure all of those gateways remotely without any VPN access to the client premises or any of that sort of thing. It'll all just happen via the BeroNet cloud system. So really, really nice sort of way to configure and monitor all of your devices. And as I said, it's a free service. So what I'll do now is I'll just grab a screwdriver, pop this open, show you what it looks like inside, and we'll fit these modules. Okay, so I've opened the gateway up, so this is just the metal enclosure that's now sitting idly by. This is what it physically looks like inside. So you can see it's a very simplistic design. As I mentioned a couple of seconds ago, no moving parts or anything along those lines, just very straightforward power, Ethernet connectivity, and then of course whatever telephony devices you need to plug in just go straight into these sockets over here. And then with a range of adapters you can obviously get to the right size of socket amount, that sort of thing. I'll show you that in just a second. So you'll see this device as standard has space for two separate module devices. Now, as I've mentioned, there are a range of different modules. So you have things like 4-port BRI as an example. So I can have one of these particularly attached to the board, and it literally just pops straight onto the circuit board like so. If I wanted, I could have two of these, in essence making this an 8-port BRI gateway. And you can have other modules as well. So there's 4-port FXS, 4-port FXO, and there's even a couple of hybrid modules, which this one in particular is. So this is a 2-port BRI, 2-port FXS module. So if you'd like a little bit more information, feel free to contact one of our sales representatives. They'll give you a bit more information on the modules available. But it really is quite nice and flexible, and you can upgrade this as much as you really need to. So it doesn't need both modules installed in order to work. You can just have one module seated on this board. If you do have one module only, you'll see the modules do come with these sort of little blanking adapters that'll just pop in on the other side over there, and that'll basically tell the little gateway that you're only making use of just one half of the module system. And then for the actual ports, so if I had this particular module over here being a 4-port BRI, of course, if I had this module on here, because there's these two ports over here are dedicated for module 1, these two ports over here are dedicated for module 2. Now, the immediate question you're probably asking is, if this is a 4-port module and it's only using these two ports, how can you have 4-port modules running on two separate ports? Well, that's where these little adapters come in. So these, of course, come with the gateway. So this is just a normal RJ45 interface that'll plug straight into port number 1, and you'll see it'll give you two separate ports out. So that's where your two BRI lines will actually exit the device. Likewise, if you've got something like an FXS system, of course these are RJ45 ports. FXS typically use RJ11 ports. So you'll see BeroNet actually does supply you with the cables going from an RJ45 interface through to an RJ11 interface. So it's all there, it's all part of the kit, it's all, it comes as accessories. When you actually do order the device, you won't have to do any, cable crimping or anything like that. But that really is it. It's a very straightforward device, very easy to upgrade and change modules and, obviously increase port sizes and that sort of thing. So really nice, easy system to use. What I'll do next is I'll actually leave this module particularly plugged into the device. We'll actually log into it. I'll show you what the interface looks like, how the cloud system works, and just show you really how easy it is to configure and maintain. Okay, so here we have the interface for our BeroNet gateway. As you can see, it's a very simplistic interface, very straightforward and easy to understand and use. The default IP address to log into this interface is just 10.0.0.2, as you can see at the top there. Default username and password is very simply admin and admin, which of course you can change at a later stage if you need to. And then after you've logged in, you just get presented with a screen exactly like you see in front of you here. Now we'll start with pretty much the basic configs that you typically look for in a voice over IP gateway. First being SIP settings. So of course if you just head through to SIP, you can obviously add a new voice over IP account. This would allow you to dial this gateway up to a particular voice over IP provider. So give it a particular name, server address, username and password, and away you go. You'll see if you do hover your mouse over any of these particular fields, they do give you some sort of more in-depth information on what that field actually does. Now, of course, if you do need more settings for whatever your purposes may be, click on this More button and you'll see it opens up a host of settings that you can use depending on what your voice over IP provider may need. So you'll see there's DTMF tones, codec settings, all sorts of things that you can particularly use here. And that's pretty much it for setting up a SIP account. It really is very straightforward and easy to do. Once you've got your SIP account sorted out, of course, the next thing that you're going to be looking for is to set up your actual hardware for the PSTN side of things. So depending on which module you physically got attached to the board will depend on which lines you're obviously going to plug into all of those different sockets. Before we actually do go and configure those PSTN ports, the nice thing that you can do is if you head to the hardware field, you can go over here, click on graphical representation of port assignment, and this just gives you a nice layout of which port on the gateway belongs to which module, what type of port it actually is, all that sort of thing. And of course, being a BRI module in particular over here, we can set whether it's physically TE or NT, whether it's basically giving out a dial tone or receiving a dial tone. In other words, whether it's plugging into a physical PSTN line or whether it's plugging into an actual PBX system. You can obviously configure that over here. So really nice, easy to use interface. And then if you head through to PSTN, it's picked up that BRI module, and you can start adding in particular groups of modules and which ports do what, that sort of thing. So I can have a group for, let's say, for example, company A, and they particularly use port 1 and 2, and I can have another group for company B, and they would use port 3 and 4, and I can have those redirect to different SIP accounts. I can have those SIP accounts ringing different ports at different incoming dial numbers. It's really quite flexible what you can do. So you don't lose any of the power of your traditional voice over IP gateways. You can still do incredible things with this gateway, but just very simply, it's just easy to follow and easy to find your way around. And the configs really are that easy. So it can be as advanced or as simple as you'd particularly like. As you can see, there's many, many more features that you can play around here if you do need to, but it's entirely up to you. And then last quick thing on top of all of that I'd just like to show you is under the management side of things, you'll see there is an option for remote management. And now this is where you'd set up the particular cloud interfaces for these specific gateways. So all that you would need is a cloud username and a cloud password from BeroNet. As I said, it's a free service, so Miro Distribution can very happily help you out with that. We'll get you a username and password as soon as you need it. Obviously, tick cloud enable, and what that'll do is this gateway will use any internet connection available to it, depending on where you've actually installed it. It'll find BeroNet server, sign in with that username and password, and then of course you can go to BeroNet's website from anywhere in the world, sign in with that same username and password, and you'll be able to see this gateway and any others that you've implemented. You'll be able to see the status, like whether the SIP trunks are dialed up, whether your BRI lines have any failures, any of those sort of things. And then, of course, if you need to make any particular changes, directly from that website, you can click on the admin interface, and it immediately opens up this interface for you of the gateway on your customer's site or location, meaning you don't have to do any VPN dial-ups or remote logins or any of that sort of stuff. You just do it all via the online cloud interface. It just makes things so much more simple and so much more straightforward. Another way that you can actually configure these devices apart from the cloud is you do actually have, I just got to find it here very quickly, there we go, auto provisioning. So you can have configs saved on a nice TFTP server, and these devices can actually pull those configs straight from the TFTP server, apply them, and obviously get them up and running. This is really great if you're going to be deploying a large amount of these gateways in a very short space of time with the same basic configurations. You can have one really nice configuration file with all the settings you need. The gateway can pull that file across and you're up and running. You don't have to log into each one individually and set it up from scratch. So you can see they've pretty much thought of everything. Of course, I can't go through all of the settings available on this gateway. It would just take way too much time. But despite being very flexible, despite having all of this functionality, they've still managed to make it very easy to use and very easy to find your way around the interface. So that's pretty much it for the BeroNet devices. I hope you enjoyed. If you do need any further questions answered, please feel free to give us a shout. Thank you very much.